you for tuning in. It is episode 7 of Pushing the Pylon. This is your host, Jim Tannhauser. And we have a big week of football like usual for you. Coming off Sunday night football, how can I bury this any further? We had a preview of the AFC Championship potentially. Two of the best teams in the league, the Buffalo Bills, the Kansas City Chiefs. We'll talk about that one. We have our Jim's Jags Report of the week, which, like usual, is a tragedy. Jaguars played the Titans this week. Spoiler alert, they didn't win. Spoiler alert, they didn't look great. We'll get into that after. I also want to talk about what I think the top 10 teams in the NFL are, a little inspired by the Bills-Chiefs game we had last night. You may disagree. I'm looking forward to that discussion. And finally, I want to talk about one other thing, and that is top quarterbacks of this season. I had a good discussion last night with my good friend Blaze. We pretty much came up with a full list of quarterbacks who have played in either last year, this year, or both. But basically the conversation was about the quarterbacks in the past 2 seasons. It was over Justin Herbert was the reason. We'll get more into that later in the episode. But to start off, what a Sunday night football game. To me, I was very surprised by the results. Some of you may not have been. We had the Buffalo Bills beating the Kansas City Chiefs by 18 points, 3 possessions. Didn't even look that close at some points in the game. Buffalo really looked like they had the Chiefs' number. They kept Mahomes in check, to which I don't even think it was Mahomes' fault all that game. I think Mahomes played a decent game, not perfect, definitely not one of his best games this season or of his career, but he had at least 1 to 2 plays, big plays at the end of the game. Now, there could have been many earlier, but I only kept track from one Tyreek Hill drop. You had a second drop later in the game. Both crucial downs where the Chiefs were just starting to mount a comeback. The Tyreek Hill one, as a matter of fact, you may remember, was Patrick Mahomes threw it right to Tyreek, got his hands up, bounced right off of him, right to Micah Hyde for the Bills. Pick 6, ran it back. Kind of killed any momentum out of that second half for the Chiefs to have a shot to come back. But yeah, those are the weird plays that stats don't show. You know, when we talk about, oh, this quarterback has 7 interceptions, this quarterback has 4, this one has 3, so he's better. We don't really take into account how the interceptions happen. A receiver may have tripped on his route, like Geno Smith. It happened to Geno Smith on Thursday for the Seahawks. His receiver tripped. He threw a pick. Yeah, it wasn't a perfect throw, but probably wouldn't have been an interception if his receiver stayed upright. I mean, Jaguars fan knowing Trevor Lawrence, that happened to him once or twice this year. But last night, Patrick Mahomes, that Tyreek Hill, that is completely, no pun intended, out of his hands. And that's on Tyreek. I mean, it happens, though, because for every play like that Tyreek Hill makes, he goes and breaks out for a 70-yard run after the catch and wins games for his team. So I do understand the checks and balances there, and, you know, don't hold it against Tyreek too much. But that was a big note to mention as to why this game doesn't fall on Patrick Mahomes, in my opinion. On the flip side, my word, Josh Allen, what a game. I'm going to pull up his stats right here, because not only did he pass like a stellar quarterback, this man ran like a stellar running back. For, you know, like all of us talk about Lamar Jackson and how he's the dual threat. Oh, he's the dual threat, and he is, for sure. But, man, Josh Allen, he can't run as good as Lamar Jackson, but boy, is his passing near the top of the league. He is super elite. Now, 15 for 26, 315 yards, 3 passing touchdowns. And on top of that, he was his team's leading rusher, 11 carries, 59 yards, and a touchdown. So he contributed a total of, you know, over 350 yards, 4 touchdowns against the Kansas City Chiefs, which I know have given up 30 or more points to every team besides week 1. I think they gave up 29 to the Browns. But that's still impressive for Josh Allen. By the way, don't mind the little flip here. There's green under his hat. We are wearing it today because I am going to Fenway Park after this. So stay patient with the hat. It is not football relevant, but we're going to deal with it. Not to get off on a tangent, however. yeah, the Buffalo Bills just completely ran shop on the Chiefs, and regardless of how flimsy the Chiefs' defense is, 38-20, 38-20 against a team who's just been in the Super Bowl the past 2 seasons. Great sign for Buffalo. I know a lot of people are crowning them as the best team in the NFL right now. I don't know about that. They're definitely in the conversation for top 2 or 3, absolutely, or even 1 in some case. I don't think that's a terrible argument, but that got me thinking, who are my top teams in the NFL? Now, this is going to go without talking about, every single game from this week, but number 1 on this list, I have the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray, I still think, is on his way to an MVP season. After last night, we know Josh Allen's the front runner for MVP right now if the season ended, but the season's far from over. I do think Kyler Murray adds on to his MVP campaign. And I don't think the Cardinals slow down. I think that's their division to lose, even though the Rams are really hot. Russell Wilson's out for a month or 2, so it's not going to be the Seahawks anytime soon. San Fran just got kind of, defeated by multiple division opponents at this point. So it comes down to the Rams and Cardinals, and I just think the Cardinals right now are so built around both sides of the football. I mean, offense is unquestionable. Defense is playing great, much better than I think a lot of people gave him credit for to start this year. But I have Cardinals 1. Then I have I get where you put the Buffalo Bills there. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to put another NFC team, the Dallas Cowboys. I don't know how you don't put the Dallas Cowboys in the top 3. If you have a top 3 of NFL teams right now and the Dallas Cowboys aren't in that top 3, I question the validity of it, because this team has shown nothing but greatness. I mean, Dak Prescott, what a already comeback player of the year. Just give it to him now. Zeke Elliott finally finding his footing to become this elite NFL running back, mainstay that I think he is anyway. But to many people kind of fell off where, Zeke doesn't have it anymore. Oh, Tony Pollard needs to be the starter. No. Let's get that all out of the way quickly. Zeke Elliott proved last night, and like he does time and time again, where you can't sleep on him. He is a top running back in this league, whether you like him or not, whether you like the Cowboys or not. Show the man respect. I mean, the Cowboys were a field goal away against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from being undefeated this year. And those wins include Tampa Bay, the Chargers, who are coming up very soon on this list, the Eagles, who aren't that great, I get it. We'll hold them aside. Sorry, Eagles fans. The Panthers, who is a surprise team to many, and many think can be a sneaky playoff team this year, even with Sam Darnold at quarterback. So 3 good teams. We'll say 2 great teams, a good team, and 2 division opponents. The Cowboys came out of that 4-1. That's very impressive to me. Cowboys number 2 on this list. I could put them number 1. We'll respect the Arizona Cardinals, though. You have to. So that would, in my opinion, put Buffalo at 3 at this point. I don't think if you put Buffalo against the Cowboys that the Bills are going to beat them. I'll take the Cowboys there. Speaking of, like we said before, the LA Chargers are number 4 on my list. I mean, Justin Herbert he is in the MVP race. Speaking of Blazer, I was talking about quarterbacks earlier. He thinks Justin Herbert's easily in that MVP race, and I can't blame him for that at all. Herbert, I think, had something like 12 touchdowns in his last 3 games with no picks. Just insane numbers from a kid who last year, we talked about this last episode of Pushing the Pylon, had a rookie season that you can't expect, that a lot of people I think are coming to expect out of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, etc. Rookie quarterbacks aren't supposed to be good year 1. Their team's not supposed to be good year 1. And Justin Herbert made the Chargers winners instantly. At worst, a 500 team, but that was way better than what they were beforehand. To now, a top 5 team in the NFL. Good for Justin Herbert. And yesterday, proved it even more. Where, yeah, sure, the defense can give up 42 points to the Browns, but guess what? We're going to score 47. Herbert had 398 yards and 4 touchdowns. 26 for 43. And that's going against a team who had their tight end get 150 receiving yards, their quarterback throw for 300, and their running back run for $160. Chargers number 4 on my list. Number 5, I'm taking the team that won Thursday night, give me the LA Rams. I think the LA Rams look really good again. If it wasn't for the Cardinals being in their division, I'd say they're the runaway favorites to win their division. But unfortunately, the NFC West is absolutely yoked this year. The AFC West is pretty good this year, too. If you're in the West in any league, any conference, it's going to be a tough one this year. End the conversation. Number 6, I have the team that the Rams beat earlier this year. We have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Can't count them out. Defending Super Bowl champions. Tom Brady having one of the most quiet MVP seasons ever. This man, you can't have an MVP discussion without Tom Brady in it at this point. Yes, he played the Dolphins. Yes, last week he had a slow game in New England. But this past week, had 11 incompletions through 30 for 41, 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. I think I heard a stat, he's never done that before. He's never thrown for 5 touchdowns like that with 400 yards. Never. At this point, I'm impressed if Tom Brady does anything for the first time. He's been around so long. He's been so great. And the Tampa Bay defense, banged up at the moment, but when they get healthy again, they're 4-1 right now. Who's to say they don't turn it up even more and get higher up on this ranking list? As defending champs, you can't help but expect that. So I have Bucks number 6. We have the Green Bay Packers next. I put them there. They had another shaky but impressive win, even though it was against Cincinnati. Some of our teams can't beat Cincinnati. Looking at you, Jacksonville. Packers, Aaron Rodgers missed. It went from week 1, Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to play for the Packers. He's intentionally throwing games, they said, to now doing what he's done in the past weeks, leading the Packers to where they are. I think the Packers are going to win their division too. So you have to have the Packers there. The next one here is the Baltimore Ravens for me. They had a fantastic start of the year. Yeah, they were pretty close by a nail to losing to the Detroit Lions, and they're completely off this list if they do that. But instead, Lamar Jackson leads them down a gutsy drive, gets them in, I want to say field goal range, but he really didn't get him in field goal range. Justin Tucker's range is just inhuman. And he kicks a ridiculous hard field goal, wins the game. Ravens are good today. They go and beat the Chiefs. Another Sunday Night Football where the Chiefs didn't look so good. So my pick there would be the Ravens at 8. And then number 9, whoever's a fan of teams who are in this talk right here are not going to like this. I'm still putting the Kansas City Chiefs. They're under 500. They don't look good. They just got their butts kicked on Sunday Night Football by a team they're probably going to have to play again if they want to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not counting out the Chiefs. It's Patrick Mahomes. It's Tyreek Hill. It's Travis Kelce. It's Andy Reid. Andy Reid's a legendary coach. Patrick Mahomes, though, I was saying this is my group chat today. I can't believe the amount of disrespect Patrick Mahomes is getting. People are acting like the Chiefs were a one-year team, that they're a fluke, that Mahomes had some Superman year and the NFL figured him out already. People are going to be eating their words come December when the Chiefs are back to destroying teams, are back in the top 3 seed of the AFC, and Mahomes is back to having ridiculous highlights where SportsCenter can't stop talking about how he's looking this way but threw the ball 40 yards that way. It's going to happen, in my opinion. I think it's inevitable. And as soon as we accept that the Chiefs are going to be back in that top 5 teams very soon, the happier we'll be as fans of being non-Kansas City Chiefs fans. You just have to respect the greatness at this point. The teams above them, I think the Chiefs can beat the Ravens in the playoffs. I think they can beat the Packers in a big game. I think they can beat the Bucks. I know the Super Bowl showed to many people they can't. Second time around, a little healthier, more preparation, more experience. I'll take those Chiefs over those Bucks. And then you get into the top 5 there where it gets a lot tougher. And the Chiefs, including a few of their losses this year, are to teams I put above them. The Ravens, the Chargers, the Bills. It's going to be a fun season for those top teams. And that was your power rankings by a fan of the number 32 team on that list. We would have got to them eventually. You'll have to trust me on that. speaking of the 32nd best team in the NFL, I will not call them the worst team in the NFL. If anything, they're the 32nd best team in the NFL. And you know what? When they add an expansion team like hockey did, they'll be better than that team for the short-term future. But let me get comfy for this one because this one's depressing. 37-19, Titans beat the Jaguars. Derrick Henry, stop me if you heard this before, has a good game against the Jaguars. No way. Shocker, right? 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. I could vomit. I usually watch the games until the last tick on the clock, till it gets to triple zeros. I can't say I did yesterday. I got very close. I got to the 2-minute warning. And man, 4 o'clock game started. I said, I'm sick of this. I am sick of this. If my own coach doesn't care, why should I? And that's something else I wanted to say in this Jags report, and I might as well get to it now. Our coach has no accountability. All due respect to Urban Meyer, he's a GOAT. He's a legendary coach of sports in general. I'm a Buckeyes fan, so I got love for Urban Meyer no matter how bad he makes my pro football team. No accountability. How in the world are you sitting at a press conference after the game and saying that you don't keep track of players' carries and you don't micromanage the game? So as someone posted as the GIF as a reply from Office Space, so what exactly do you do? Because if you're not micromanaging the game as the coach, what are you just sitting there with the playbook and the headset looking nice saying, oh, my coach, my OC, my DC, they'll handle it. My special teams coach, my linebackers coach, they'll do it. I'm just going to stand here and be Urban Meyer and hands on the hips and look down and, text what woman I'm seeing after the game. No, I'm just kidding about that last part. Sorry, Urban. If you somehow watch this down the road, I'm sorry. I love you. That was a classic moment in the timeline, though, seeing Urban Meyer in that video. If the Jaguars suck this year, at least I have that moment, and none of you can take that away from me. In much more optimistic portions of the game, I would say, Trevor Lawrence, I think he had a good game. I don't care. There's nothing you can expect this guy to do at this point besides just keep throwing, keep trying, stay in the pocket, stay healthy. In terms of staying in the pocket, I don't even mean like don't scramble because he's doing a much better job of that. The options look incredible. He scored a touchdown yesterday because of it. Beautiful play action. Took it himself, keeper. Beautiful. I love that from Trevor. And we're going to see that for many years to come, I hope. But you have to build around him, and that's going to be a big thing this offseason. They need to go get a big market wide receiver. They need to go get more offensive linemen they can rely on. And eventually, they're going to need a coach that can bring up Trevor Lawrence to be this superstar that we all know he's going to be or will be. Because all this talk about, oh, Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like the number 1 pick. Oh, Mac Jones looks like a better quarterback. Sure, if you want to use short-term thinking with no mind toward the future and logic and potential that we obviously see intangibles of from Trevor Lawrence on tape constantly, sure, you could say Mac Jones is the better quarterback in this rookie class. I know you don't believe that, though. I know that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in this draft class, but he was put on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Things don't turn around overnight in Jacksonville. I thought maybe they would with Urban Meyer and Trevor. This would be the one exception. Not the exception. Not at all the exception, and that's fine. I may not be a patient fan, but I'm a loyal fan. So I may get mad. I'm already mad. Trust me. It's frustrating watching these Jaguar games. But with Trevor Lawrence there, it's not like we're tanking for a quarterback. The draft class isn't that strong next year, I don't think. I mean, relatively, I think you're going to see players drafted in the 20s and 30s and 40s that end up being stars way better than the guys drafted in the teens or single digits. Not all of them, obviously, but it feels like one of those drafts. I mean, the scouts, you'd be hearing by now about all these great quarterbacks coming out of college. You're not hearing that conversation because the fact of the matter is, it doesn't seem like the analysts really trust him coming out. So the Jags picked the right year to tank last year. Allegedly. Don't want to get him in trouble. Allegedly. Next week, I have to wake up at 9 a.m. to watch my Jaguars hopefully not be embarrassing on a national stage. They'll be in London. playing the Miami Dolphins, who also just got embarrassed on a national stage. National stage, probably not nationally televised. But playing the Tampa Bay Bucks, you come to expect to lose. They didn't look good at all. They might get Tua back. That's the word, that Tua's probably going to test it and see if he can play for London. I think I'd rather see Jacoby Brissett play the Jaguars in terms of chances to win. But at this point, I don't know. It feels like the Dolphins, as long as they have a decent game, they'll probably win. But the Jags need a really damn good game. I mean, they need James Robinson to do what he does. They need Urban Meyer to not forget about him and try to use Carlos Hyde on 4th and 1. I love Carlos Hyde. He's not bad. But use James Robinson when he's out rushing Derrick Henry yardage-wise. Last year he was your bell cow. Every chance you give him this year, he looks great. But you want to abandon him for an Ohio State alum? I don't know if that's Urban Meyer's thinking there, but it sure looks like, there's a little bias there where he thinks Carlos Hyde is just as good, and that's just not the case. He's a good complementary back. He is not a good starting back, and he is not replacing James Robinson in production ever. And just think, the Jaguars yesterday lost when the Titans didn't have Julio Jones. If they had Julio, they probably lose by 40. It's probably uglier because Julio is the type to absolutely expose the Jaguar secondary that doesn't exist at all. I mean, they had a first rounder out there who wasn't even that good as it is, apparently. I thought he was okay, but they go and trade him. So CJ Henderson is not even here anymore. Titans might have spared us. Titans might have spared us by not playing Julio. And they didn't need him. So it's a free week of rest, for the Titans, where next week they play Monday Night Football, and they're going to need Julio for that because they play the Buffalo Bills, who we just talked about. So in closing, Jags Report, tragic like usual, depressing like usual, sad like usual. Don't want to talk about it, but it's become a segment on Pushing the Pylon. I'm not going to take that away from you. It's my little therapy session, and we're going to keep it as is. So the final thing I wanted to talk about, and I know this is going to be a relatively short episode, and that's okay. That's okay, because that will give me motivation to put out more content for Pushing the Pylon this week specifically, but this won't be the normal amount. We're going to try for that hour every week, but I wanted to leave extra time so I could discuss this final quarterback point that I had with Blaze, my friend Blaze, who we will get on this podcast eventually. I know he's born down for it. We just got to schedule a good time. We talked about it started off when we talked about Justin Herbert. And I said, Justin Herbert, I rattled off the 12 touchdown, no interceptions stat to him. And I said, is Justin Herbert a top 5 quarterback in the NFL in the past 2 years? Since he came in the league. Is he a top 5 quarterback? It's close. We've come to determine he's not. He's right outside of it, in our opinion. And this is a list I will update every week. I mean, it has to, because some quarterbacks look better than others in certain weeks. We have players in here that haven't played this year yet, but had a strong 16-game showing last year. We have guys who didn't play last year who look good this year. The only thing we excluded all rookies, so you won't see Trevor Lawrence, you won't see Mac Jones, you won't see any of them in here. And then we were thinking about excluding guys like Dak Prescott, who were hurt last year for the most part. Guys like Deshaun Watson, who haven't played yet this year, but played all of last year. We're including them. We're including a few of these guys just for, the respect that they played a full season last year. Number one, we both agree, is Patrick Mahomes. I know some of you want to say Tom Brady, and I get it. He's Super Bowl champion, looks great. Look at him this year. Talent-wise, there's no one better than Patrick Mahomes in this league at quarterback. There just isn't. The things he does, I don't care if the Chiefs go 2-5 this year, 2-6 this year. Patrick Mahomes, and it goes back to the thing with Trevor Lawrence. Just because the team's bad doesn't mean I'm going to go say the quarterback's any worse than where I ranked him when the team was good. Trevor Lawrence, coming out of college, best quarterback, no doubt. He comes on a really bad team, a team that arguably some would say is the closest thing to a college team. And he doesn't do good. He hasn't done good so far, but I don't think he's done awful. Like, I don't think he's so bad where I'm panicking about having him as a long-term option. Of course not. So don't do that with Patrick Mahomes in terms of top quarterbacks in the league. He's number 1. Tom Brady, number 2, doesn't need explanation. Defending Super Bowl champ, might go back at least far in the NFC playoffs this year, barring health for his team, but we'll see. Tom Brady, number 2. Number 3, we agreed, Aaron Rodgers. This man, last year, fantastic year. This year, looking like another good year for him, even though it's the so-called last year of Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, whatever his contract may say. I have Rodgers number 3. Number 4, this is where we get into a little disagreement. He had Josh Allen 4. I put Kyler Murray 4. I think Kyler Murray is just, I can't say enough about Kyler Murray. He is an absolute dog out there. That you want him as your quarterback, unless you are the Chiefs, the Bucks, the Packers, or the Bills. Kyler Murray is an improvement at the quarterback position for your team. It's that simple. And even if you're the Bucks or Packers, you're taking Kyler Murray anyway because he's much younger and not that much worse than the other two, if at all. So Kyler Murray, in my opinion, is number 4. I'm putting Josh Allen 5. How can you not? Man's one of the most complete quarterbacks in the league. Dual threat. Insane. Winning big games like he did last night. Josh Allen, definitely top 5 quarterback. Past 2 years. I put Justin Herbert next. I can't put Justin Herbert any lower on the list. I mean, yeah, it's a little recency bias, but we're doing 2 years. It's okay. We don't have to act like he's a rookie. He doesn't get that pass because he was a rookie. The past 2 years, Justin Herbert is right up there with the others. Next, you gotta go Russell Wilson. Respect to Russell Wilson. He has not fallen off much at all. His team has fallen off around him much more than, in prior years. Russell Wilson still has to be in your top 6 to 7 quarterbacks, no questions asked. Next, this is where it gets weird because I have Deshaun Watson. Now, some of you may be saying, Jim, why do you have a guy who hasn't played yet this year, probably won't play at all this year, and is a complete, alleged scumbag? And I get it. Allegedly, he's terrible. But I don't know about that. I don't know the details. I just know he's off the field for whatever, and that's fine. That's fine. Let the legal process do its part. Let the investigations do their part. On the field, Deshaun Watson led the league in passing last year. Okay? I mean, you can't make a list out of quarterbacks in the past 2 years and just pretend Deshaun Watson's not on it. And especially, you can't act like he's low on this list either. In theory, he's missed 5 games this year. He played last year entirely. There's quarterbacks on this list like Dak Prescott who have missed the entire year last year and only played 4 games last year and 5 games this year. So if we're including them, you have to include Deshaun Watson. I put him right behind Russell Wilson. Then you have Matt Ryan, slowly falling off, closer to retirement. Still have to respect the guy. He's still putting up very good numbers given the circumstances. Next is Lamar Jackson. Again, another dual threat monster. His passing stats aren't that impressive, but you have to take into account the rushing. You just have to. That's why guys like Josh Allen are so high up, because they offer a skill at the quarterback position that many, if not most of these other guys don't. Next, I would go, this is a weird one. For me, I would say it's between Kirk Cousins, Matt Stafford, and Dak Prescott. You have 2 guys who played most of last year, Cousins and Stafford. You have Kirk Cousins, who's been really good in the past 2 years. But you have Dak Prescott, who didn't play much at all last year, like we keep saying. But we know when healthy on the field, he is definitely higher up on this list. I'd probably put him above the Matt Ryans and Deshaun Watson. Like, Dak is that good. But for now, considering the circumstances, we have Dak at number top 11 to 12, maybe number 10, maybe put him there with Matt Ryan. Like I said, depends. We go over this list again in 3 weeks. I bet you Dak's higher than Matt Stafford and Kirk Cousins. Next, we have Ryan Tannehill. Can't undersell what he's done in Tennessee. Very efficient. Some may say he doesn't make his team win games. Well, he certainly keeps his team from losing a lot of games. Ben Roethlisberger next. Iron Man has been slowly falling off, but got to put him on this list where he is. I mean, I could put him above Tannehill. I just think Tannehill's been much more consistent. And considering the receiving core, I know it's probably a bad time to bring that up considering Big Ben just lost Juju for the whole season. And Claypool's banged up. Deontay Johnson seems like he's finally back. That's good. But we'll go Ben Roethlisberger. Next, we go Derek Carr. We go Baker Mayfield. I'm going to start rattling these off so we don't explain every spot. Said Baker Mayfield. We said Joe Burrow next. Again, another guy who was injured last year. You ask me again in a month, I'm probably putting him much higher on this list. I think Joe Burrow is a very special talent. Teddy Bridgewater next. Now, that may surprise you. Look at the stats. Look at his team's success. Get back to me if you think he should be here on this list, because I think he definitely should be. Above guys like Jared Goff, Daniel Jones, even Carson Wentz, who some of you skill-wise may say is way underrated, but show it. He hasn't shown it these past 2 seasons, remember. 2 seasons. This is a little more of the comedical comedy section where these guys aren't really, they're not playing this year. They're not like great quarterbacks, but you got to rank them if you're going to rank them. Gardner Minshew, Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts. Now, some of you out there are saying, I am absolutely fried in the head for putting Jalen Hurts so low behind a guy who's his backup, Gardner Minshew, right? Gardner Minshew played every game last year. He looked all right. Consider, again, it's Jacksonville. I think he looked great. I think it's fair to say, given the context, he looked great. You have Sam Darnold, who looked awful last year, but was on the Jets. And you have Jalen Hurts, who didn't play a full season last year. So whatever you want, Minshew, Darnold, Hurts, and even throw Jameis Winston in that section, because he didn't play last year. Wherever you want to mix those 4, I personally have it Minshew, Darnold, Hurts, Winston. I can't get mad at you if you have Hurts, Minshew, Darnold, Watson, or Hurts, Darnold, Minshew, Watson. But I would definitely put, past 2 years, Hurts, Darnold, Minshew over Watson. Or over Winston, excuse me. However order. I was a little biased. Had to put Minshew as high as I could. Minshew Mania, I miss you. Philly, start the man. Next, Jimmy G, way down there. Didn't play much last year. He had Nick Mullins getting a lot of those stats in San Francisco. Ryan Fitzpatrick, Mitch Trubisky, Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, and the bottom one, which I tried fighting for so much more, but the stats don't lie. I hate to say it. If you think they do, look them up because they're terrible. Cam Newton, a guy I said would play more games this year than Jimmy G, who granted isn't much higher than him on this list, might be the worst quarterback to play quality time in the past 2 seasons. The stats are awful. You know what? For the sake of the argument, I'm pulling up the stats real quick because this is disgusting. Let's see. And I didn't think New England was right to cut him. I didn't think that was a smart move. But when you see that Cam Newton last year threw for a staggering... He played 15 games now. 15 games. He threw for 2,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 10 picks. Last year in Carolina before that, he didn't really play. So... between those years, you remember him throwing 20 touchdowns a year, throwing 3,300 yards a year. Went all the way down to 2,600, 8 touchdowns, 10 picks. Got sacked 31 times. And his passer rating's in the 80s. Not great at all. I know the argument's going to be, oh, if Cam Newton's situation's this, oh, if he's healthy this, oh, if that, then obviously he's probably going to be above the Jacoby Brissett's, Andy Dalton's, Trubisky, Fitzpatrick, Jimmy G, Winston. You know, he'll be higher on that list, but you got to show me. Cam Newton has a really good or bad argument, however you want to word it, to be at the bottom of this list. We'll revisit this in a few weeks. This is kind of what we took place for with hitter stand. I guess this is one big hitter stand. If you think this list should be any different, write back. Tell me what quarterback you think should be higher on that list. We're going to have a graphic. I'll have it throughout the video. If you should have seen it by now. It's been to the left of my head this whole time, right there somewhere. But let me know what you think about the list. Yeah, there's a lot I can move around. We'll say, what week are we in? We're week 5 right now, going into week 6 next week. Week 10, when we cover the next episode of Pushing the Pylon on week 10, we'll redo this list. We'll go over it again, and I'll try to get Blaze on for that episode, and we'll talk about the list, and we'll have some good debate in there as well. Final thoughts before this episode's over. We have Monday Night Football tonight. We have the Colts. We have the Baltimore Ravens. They're in Baltimore. Ravens are a 1.5 point favorites. Colts are banged up. Their defense is hurting. Rock Ya-Sin's out still. Kwity Paye, rookie, hasn't lit up the stat sheet for Indy yet, but I think his presence is going to be missed a lot tonight for the Colts. I don't know if he would catch up to Lamar Jackson in a sprinting race or anything, but it's going to free up the ends for Lamar to kind of get out quicker. If the pocket collapses, look for Hollywood Brown downfield. Look for, Sammy Watkins downfield this game might have a big touchdown. We'll see. I'll be posted about it tonight, but spoiler alert, the game's already over by the time you're watching this episode. I'm going to be picking the Ravens. I don't think the Colts can hang with the Ravens. Ravens are getting in that mood where they're feeling themselves. They're feeling like they're the contenders that, they thought they were. They just saw their, rivals, the Chiefs, lose on Sunday Night Football. They should be motivated to come out and clobber the Colts. Their one loss this year was overtime week 1. That was also Monday Night Football. So all signs point to where the Ravens are due for a big Sunday night or Monday night game. And we can leave out that didn't work for the Chiefs logically last night, but due for a Monday night game. They're finally getting on that winning streak. The past 2 weeks, their defense has shown up better. Yeah, they played the Lions and Broncos, but 17 points and 7 in the last 2 weeks. You're going to need that against Indy tonight. And if you can bring out that good defense against Indy, you might hold them to under a touchdown, because for the honest to God truth on it, Carson Wentz, 5 touchdowns, 1 pick looks good. It's not, Jonathan Taylor is going to be the do or die of if Indy keeps this close, if Indy covers the spread. It's going to be up to Jonathan Taylor. I would be sweating if you pick the Ravens and Jonathan Taylor has over 100 yards at any point in the game. The Colts probably are keeping it close, that means. But who knows if Lamar Jackson doesn't outrush him. He already has 5 more rushing yards than him this year, an extra touchdown, and 16 less carries. So really what we should be talking about is if Lamar Jackson goes over 100 yards, this game may be a 30, 40-point blowout. But we'll see. In the meantime, Pushing the Pylon. Make sure to follow the page. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. It's Hauser Media on TikTok. But we put our Thursday night picks on there. Undefeated on Thursday Night Football. Dare I say that right before a scary pick this week, where we have the Eagles and Bucks, I believe, are Thursday Night Football upcoming. I'm nervous about my undefeated streak on the line for that game, but we'll see. Regardless, this has been Pushing the Pylon with your host, Jim Tannhauser. See you soon. Have a good night. Enjoy the game.